What's up, Conference USA fans? Welcome into another episode of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. You're probably wondering, where's Sarah? Where's Jess? Well, it's me, Josh Yonis, back on the podcast after a few-month hiatus following the conclusion of football season, but back in here to help wrap up basketball season. We still have a couple games going on, but nearing the end of that, but want to help you guys get a look at what's going on in our spring seasons, which brings me to my guest, Associate Director of Communications, Eric Jones, to help me with our coverage of the Diamond Sports. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing dandy. Can't believe we're already nearing the end of March here and getting ready for these spring championships.
Yeah, it's crazy. So I know you guys did a great job recapping our basketball championships, giving everybody an insight to our postseason basketball teams. We'll start on the men's side. Kennesaw State's historic season ended with a narrow loss to Gonzaga in the first round of the NCAA basketball tournament. They led for a majority of the first half. They were up at half. They were playing really well, but this one just kind of slipped away for the Owls. What happened to them?
Honestly, I think matchup-wise, they matched up really well against the Zags. I think physicality-wise, you look at the size in Kennesaw, and they're one of our bigger teams, more physical teams. And I think it just kind of came down to they just didn't make enough buckets. They had chances to there in the first half, and a few got away from them. I don't know if it was nerves. Probably was. You got some young guys. It's a young team. But physicality-wise, I think they matched up with them really well. Gonzaga went on that run to end the first half, and then kind of just pulled away there in the second half. Kennesaw, kept it tight. They had a few chances there, brought it, within maybe a couple possessions. But in the end, Gonzaga was just probably a little bit too much for them. And incredible season, incredible job by Coach Petway, and just rallying the guys. They went through a lot this year. And he talked about it in last week's podcast as well, and the adversity that they hit. But being able to rally the guys, RJ Johnson taking over as the leader of that team, they were really, really fun to watch down the stretch. And especially, they went 0-2 in their final week of the regular season, not with a whole lot of momentum going into the conference tournament, and there they go. So a really fun team to watch. But yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, RJ Johnson's, like you said, virtually came out of nowhere this season with what happened to them this year, and led an incredible run through our tournament. And I think what jumped out to me, just looking at that box score again from the Gonzaga game, 3 of 17 from the 3-point line, which is very uncharacteristic for the Owls. And you have to wonder, I mean, in a 9-point game, if you hit 3 of those, this could be an entirely different game. No. So, and it's still, a very normal, I think a normal rate for them, nearing that, 33% line. But those weren't falling for them, which definitely hindered them. But still, definitely have to tip our cap to Coach Petway, to the Owls for an incredible season. Hoping that they're able to kind of keep some of that together for next year, and they'll be back towards the top. On the women's side, Missouri State picked up a win over SFA in the first 4, led by a 22.13 board double-double for Cayman Beckmeyer. They had 5 Lady Bears in double figures in that one. I think, beyond, we obviously don't want to get into too much of what happened against Texas. And that wasn't too much of a surprise, I don't think. But when I was looking through that recap again, Lady Bears have won a game in each of their last 4 NCAA tournament appearances. So I think despite what happened, 2 days later, you really can't take that kind of experience away from the Lady Bears getting a win in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, and it obviously kind of shocked us all a little bit with how they got in, playing in that first 4 game, but super excited to see them get a win on the big stage. I think they're one of 2 games that night in the NCAA tournament. So I didn't get to watch the whole game, but got to see near the end of it and watch them pull away there and get a big win. And I know they got a lot of kudos from the Texas head coach as well. I watched a lot of his pressers in the week, and he had great things to say about Beth Cunningham and Kevin Beckemeyer. So really awesome to see them get that love on the big stage.
Yeah, definitely. Looking around the rest of the postseason tournaments here, Liberty men closed a pivotal chapter with its senior core in the second round of the NIT, picked up a big road win against George Mason in the second round, just kind of ran into a buzzsaw with going to a really tough place to play in Reno against that Nevada team. But just for you to kind of, I mean, obviously you've watched them for a couple of years now and seen these guys, and we've seen the emotions from Richie McKay following that game. I mean, what were your thoughts just watching that kind of come to an end?
It's probably hasn't settled in for me especially, but for I'm sure a lot of the Liberty fans, a lot of the staff there, the players as well. That is a core group that they had right there, and those seniors didn't know if they're going to even be able to play this past year, and they were, and they won a regular season. They did so many great things this year. I think it gets overshadowed by the way the season ended for them, which is tough. But they won 17 straight games at one point. Started league play 15-0. It was a really, really fun group to watch. And after getting bounced in one game in the conference tournament, they go on and get a huge road win against George Mason. I don't think really anybody expected them to win that game. And then going to Nevada and holding their own, that's like you said, a really tough place to play, a long travel for them. And for a while there, I thought they might be able to pull that one out too. They could be playing Auburn this week, but an incredible run by those guys. Cade Matheny's at Cleveland, Colin Porter, all of those guys. And even the seasons that Brett Decker had, he was, one of the elite 3-point shooters in the country. Hoping he can stay around Lynchburg for that squad. But, really, wild to see this chapter come to an end in Liberty hoops. Not sure what to expect next year, but I know that coaching staff's gonna do the right thing and get the right guys in, and they're gonna be just as good as they have been the last couple of years.
Yeah, he's definitely gonna be busy in the transfer portal for sure. And it was, I think, what was awesome to me when we saw the three of them kind of collectively announce that they were coming back last year was it's so unique in this. This day and age of college athletics to see guys Zach Cleveland could have very well gone anywhere, right? He was probably getting plenty of calls to finish out his career somewhere else, and honestly for those other guys too. But for them to come together and say, hey, no, we want to do this the right way. We want to finish it out. Do something great for Liberty. Which, to your point, they did still do some amazing things this year, even though it may not have ended the way that they wanted it to. But yeah, just a crazy thing to think about with them being done and there being a lot of big shoes to fill in that program going forward.
For sure.
Looking at the some of the other women's tournaments, CUSA runner-up La Tech bowed out in the first round of the WBIT, while Sam Houston closed its season with a loss to Portland in the first round of the WNIT. But we do still have two teams alive in the WNIT. FIU survived an overtime thriller against Stetson in the first round. Ree McCollins, a huge three-pointer at the buzzer to send us to overtime. That was awesome. They get a chance to play Abilene Christian second round, 6 p.m. on Tuesday. So this evening, we're recording on Tuesday. In Abilene, and then Middle Tennessee handled St. Bonaventure with ease in their second round game of the WNIT. Their first game, they had a bye into the second round. 20-point, 14-board double-double by CUSA Freshman of the Year Blair Bogus, and then they're set to host Cleveland State in the third round at 6:30 p.m. Central this Thursday. So, and while on the topic of Middle Tennessee basketball, we would be remiss if we did not give a tip of the cap to Rick Insell for his amazing career at Middle Tennessee, a CUSA Hall of Famer, a legendary coach, the winningest coach in Middle Tennessee history. Announced his retirement last week, following the conference tournament, and I think we all kind of felt it coming. It was just getting to that time, and we know that he's handed off a lot of the reins to his son Matt, who I think as we speak, as we're recording this, is being introduced as the next head coach of the Blue Raiders. So, again, just congratulations to him on an amazing career. And that'll be following the conclusion. The season's not over. He's still on the sidelines coaching. Right. So he's hoping to get him to, potentially get him a WNIT title on his way out, which would be a great cherry on top. But so that's what we got for basketball. Obviously, we'll still have a couple more to talk about next week to finish out. Hopefully not finish out. I hope both those teams are still playing in the WNIT. But moving on to bowling, this is what you guys really want to hear about. We know it. The CUSA bowling contingent just continues to be among the best in the country, and basically had a mini national championship out in Harahan, Louisiana for the Conference USA Championship. But definitely congratulations are in order to Jax State, which collected its second CUSA championship in 3 seasons. Thrilling title victory over Arkansas State. Gianna Brandolino earned Most Valuable Bowler. I could not believe, we were talking to our communications assistant, Elizabeth Kanzig, about this. Just the format of bowling is already just wacky for those of you who don't know. And it's over a lot of our heads. But there are 2 rounds of play, right? You have your traditional, you have your Baker play. And Jax State and Arkansas State split those fairly normal-ish. Goes to a tiebreaker round, a best of 7 tiebreaker. Arkansas State wins that because they came out of the losers bracket and Jax State was undefeated, forced an if necessary game after that, another best of 7. They actually tied one of the best of 7 games. So they finished 3.5 points each, had to go to another tiebreaker. And eventually, obviously, as we've said, Jax State was able to clinch the title in the final round, putting an end to kind of the back and forth affair here. But just a wild run for the Gamecocks in this one. We'll find out where them, and I'm sure most of our league, if not all of them, end up in the NCAA bowling tournament. Selection show will air on ncaa.com at 3 p.m. Central on Wednesday. Regional matches will begin April 2nd, and then the NCAA championships will take place April 10th to the 11th in Cleveland, Ohio. So again, I'm sure we'll see plenty of CUSA representation in that bracket. But
Gotta love bowling season. We were all in here on Thursday watching all the March Madness games, and we got the 9 screens up there. We had to put on the bowling championship in there as well. What a time. So now shifting over to our Diamond Sports, get to some of we also have a special guest joining us. Meant to tease this at the top of the show, but we have Jacksonville State outfielder Morgan Nowakowski joining us later in the show, but we're going to get to some baseball first, and then we'll wrap it up with softball before we get to our guests. So Eric, take us through what's going on in baseball through some early conference play through the first couple months of the season. Well, we got to hit on Jax State first. I know feels like it's going to be a big Jax State show here. We got a softball interview here today, but we got to talk about the baseball guys too. What an incredible job Steve Beezer's doing with this group, especially after the season they ended with last year. Last year they had a 19-game turnaround, one of the best turnarounds in the country, if not the best, I think. Made a CUSA title game appearance, came up just short to a walk-off to WKU. But I feel like they got a little bit of revenge this weekend. They swept WKU in Jacksonville. The Gamecocks are off to a 6-0 start in league play, 21-4 overall, and kind of I feel like quietly doing it. But these guys are very talented. They have a very, they brought a lot of guys back. Grayson Ash, Caleb Johnson. And they got one of the best pitching staffs in the nation too. Currently, I think they are, let's see, I had it down here, 13th nationally in earned run average as a team at a 3.29. Eli Pillsbury's got a 1.07 ERA right now, leading Conference USA, and I believe top 10 in the country as well on Friday night. So you get a guy that can go out there on a Friday night and put up zeros for you, give your offense a chance to go win games, and that really sets the tone in the series. And that's kind of what they've been doing. They've been riding their pitching staff and scoring enough. They've run rule WKU to end the series on Sunday, but Coach Beezer also picked up his 400th career win on Friday night. So a big milestone in his career with Jax State. And they also are receiving votes and are in the top 25 of the perfect game national poll, sitting at number 25. So
yeah, I was gonna say, you said quietly. I think they're starting to get some buzz.
Sure.
I was looking at it and it was crazy because I wasn't sure which sport they were talking about. Jacksonville State is top 10 in both, in all of the mid-major rankings for baseball and softball right now. So, and like you said, big show for Jacksonville State. We may have just had Greg Seitz on here instead just to talk about what's going on in Jacksonville, Alabama, because they're doing all the things right this year. When you look at all these sports going on, but that's awesome for the Gamecocks that they're getting off to a hot start here.
Yeah, super excited for them. I talked about Caleb Johnson just a minute ago. He went 9 for 19 last week. 6 of his 9 hits came for extra bases. So I want to give him a huge shout out. Obviously, talk about Pillsbury leading the charge on the pitching staff. But this team is super fun to watch. They got to go on the road this weekend and play La Tech.
In the Love Shack.
The Love Shack. This is going to be their biggest series of the year so far, I think. La Tech coming off of a series loss at New Mexico State. The Aggies are playing really good ball right now, which, we'll talk about that here in a minute, but a really tough weekend here for Jax State, and, they'll have a lot to prove on the road for sure. But I want to talk about like the actual how CUSA is playing out. We have 7 teams in the top 100 right now in the RPI.
Wow.
Missouri State leading the way at number 9. So top 10 team in RPI. Jax State's at 36. But this team, like, even with, may not seem like, a lot of our records, overall records, we've had some losses in non-conference play, a lot of series losses, but, this is still a really strong conference. We played really well in non-conference scheduling wise, but a really good league right now nationally. And, it leads me into talking about Missouri State and the start that they have. They had their first USA sweep over the weekend against Middle Tennessee. Had a big come from behind win on Sunday as well. I believe they were losing at one point by 3 or 4 runs. And Brant Craigle, who won CUSA Hitter of the Week, had a monster weekend at the plate, a clutch weekend. He was 5 for 8 with a home run, 2 doubles, 8 RBIs. It felt like I think he had a pinch hit double to take the lead.
I remember
Friday
we were
night.
looking at it, and it was like, pinch it, double, take the lead or tie it, and then another one Sunday in another clutch moment. So
the definition of clutch, I think that's really what set him apart in winning this award this week, and especially for them to go get a big road series win at Liberty last week. And to come back home and get a big sweep. Middle Tennessee was coming off a series win and looked really good this weekend. It's the weird thing in baseball and softball is that you can be so close to, flipping a weekend. Like Middle Tennessee was very close to winning 2 of those games and winning that series. And you look at it and they got swept.
And that's we have WKU's that team for us where, they're 6-3 in conference, which sounds very steady, but they go from a sweep to start league play. They get swept by Jax State, and then they turn around and get another sweep. They swept Middle Tennessee as well. So it's funny to see, I don't remember that from the past couple years where it's been just this like total up and down with a lot of teams early on. Just kind of everyone's trying to, find their way through conference, kind of etch their way, in the standings early on. So,
And I know, traveling in baseball and softball world is never easy as well. I know going through commercial airline with 40 people and, bags everywhere. It can be tough sometimes. And I know, these coaches and support staffs do a great job and making it the most seamless way to get across the country or get down the road for these teams. But, a really fun start to the year for baseball. Missouri State, like I said, first CUSA sweep. They're currently 7th nationally in home runs at 46, 2nd in the conference, and they're a top 15 team in slugging percentage. So they slug it, they hit doubles, they hit bombs. They're hitting for extra bases and bringing guys around. They're doing really well right now, and excited to see where the top of this league is going. You got La Tech, BBU, both 4-2. DBU lost their opener at Delaware, bounced back and got the series win. So, when you really look down to it, you want to sweep those series. I know for DBU's sake, but you got to win the series too. Sometimes taking 2 out of 3 is what you got to do, especially on the road. It was actually really fun. I was in Kennesaw on Friday night to check out, the digs out there, the new facility. It's great, incredible new facility in Mickey Dunn Stadium. But got to see Ben Blair in action. I got to see him in the tournament last year, but this dude has really cranked it up a notch. He had 8 strikeouts, 7 shutout innings. Again, it's his 3rd CUSA Pitcher of the Week already this year. He was a delight to watch. It was a pitcher's duel. It went into extras at 0-0. The pitching on both ends were great. And then Josh Campos hit a solo shot in the top of the 10th, and they brought around another to make it 2-0 and win. So great game. Incredible. If you're a fan of pitching, that was definitely the game to watch. And some of these Friday night games, you're going to see a lot of good starting pitching from our teams. So definitely tune into those ones. But yeah, I think, the series to look out for this weekend, you got Jax State at La Tech. All 3 of those games will be on ESPN Plus. Friday at 6 Central, Saturday 2 Central, and then Sunday the finale at 1 p.m. Central Time. that's my series to look out for. Excited for week 3 of Conference USA baseball.
That's awesome. Well, before we tie a bow on baseball, I want to go back to Ben Blair for a minute because, you did say that you saw him last year. You got a chance to see him again this weekend. Well, because we knew about Ben Blair, obviously, last year, and he had his moments. I think there were plenty of weeks where he was in the conversation for pitcher of the week, but wasn't really putting together kind of the body of the work that we were expecting of the caliber of guy he's now become. What's been the biggest difference for him that's really helped him kind of take this leap in 2026?
I think it's just getting comfortable in collegiate baseball and the next level. I know it probably seems quick to him that he's already a junior, and here we are. Like, I remember seeing him as a freshman. I was like, this kid's got a lot of potential. He's throwing mid to upper 90s from a funky arm slot. I think that's what he really has going for him, and I think it was a matter of him finally getting the command, probably scouting reports too, and seeing what guys do what against you. You would assume that left-handed hitters have a little bit more success, just seeing the ball a little bit easier off of them. But I'm sure his arm slot against right-handed hitters are got to be really tough to see, got to be deceiving. But I think his just confidence on the mound, you can tell he has a certain presence to him. He got out of some jams. He scattered, I think, 3 hits and a walk on Friday night, but there was never an instance where it felt like he was down. And even when he got out of, I think, a jam, he had a guy on second base, middle innings there, and got out of it and, showed him up a little bit, got a little fiery, going back to the dugout. And you even see him whenever, Tyler August came in to pitch after him. Blair was the first guy to greet him out of the dugout when he came in out of a big jam or whatnot. So I think his confidence, his leadership, just in general, him growing and being more of a veteran on this team, you can just tell.
That's awesome. All right. Well, moving over to softball now. We got an extra week under our belts in terms of conference play for softball. Starting to see the dust kind of settle a little bit here. But again, it's Jax State at the top for softball as well. They've won 20 of their last 25 games, including an 8-1 start in CUSA play. They played 3 of the top 4 teams in the, other than themselves. They were in the top 4 as well. In the preseason poll, and all they've done is hand Liberty their first home series loss since 2007. They snapped WKU's 14-game winning streak at the time, and they swept preseason runner-up La Tech most recently. So a lot of incredible things going well for Coach Boland and the Gamecocks right now. Just a few, people that kind of jump out during this stretch. Morgan Nowakowski, who we're going to talk to here in a little bit, hitting 368 in those last 25 games. Team high 28 hits in the last 25 games. So averaging over a hit a game. And then a team high 8 doubles. She had 2 in their final win this past weekend, 1 to tie it and 1 to win it. So a big one for her. And then Emma Elrod hitting 355, team high 21 runs, 18 walks. So from that leadoff spot, serving as a huge catalyst for the Gamecock offense, which has just been unstoppable in the last month or so. And then McKenna Moore, she's a 2-time freshman of the week. She was our pitcher of the week this past week. 8-1 on the year, 2.52 ERA, holding opponents under 200, 200, opposing batting average. And then in her last 5 outings, 4-0 with a 0.22 ERA. So just absolutely shutting out everybody she faces right now as a freshman, mind you. So
nuts.
A true freshman, which is crazy. A lot of great things going on for Jacksonville State. I'll talk about them a little bit more as we get to a couple of the series to watch. And then Liberty, obviously we're talking softball. We got to talk Liberty. I didn't think we would be talking about Liberty if you had asked me a few weeks ago. Got off to a really slow start to the year, played an extremely challenging schedule, but still would have expected them to have won, a few more games here and there. They lost a series to Jacksonville State's open conference play. So it was still kind of jury was out. Since then, they've won 7 straight games, and now they sit 1 game back of Jacksonville State at 7-2 in league play. So 2 road sweeps after that series loss to Jax State, which I think, one of them was UTEP this past weekend. Still, despite the opponent, going back to your point, winning on the road, much less sweeping, is still a big challenge.
Oh, yeah.
But this Liberty lineup has been absolutely electric during the winning streak, hitting 365 as a team. With 17 of their 26 home runs on the year just in these last 7 games. Yeah. So they're hitting the ball really well. They're starting to see it really well. It's starting to come together for them. Obviously, they still need to do a little bit of work on the pitching side, but if they can continue to score runs, they're going to continue to win games for sure. So we'll see how they kind of continue to develop, if they can keep these winning ways going. Elsewhere in the standings, we got WKU, Sam Houston, New Mexico State sitting in a tie for third at 6-3 in league play. So a few really chippy teams sitting right there on their tails at the top of the standings. So kind of leads me into my series of the week. We've got WKU at New Mexico State, which for anyone who's been to Las Cruces, New Mexico, or watched any baseball or softball in Las Cruces, New Mexico, you know exactly how terrifying that might be for a pitcher.
It's like playing on the moon.
Yeah, right. Yep. And that's, one thing that has been a strength for WKU. They're the top pitching staff, top 25 in the nation in ERA, hits allowed per 7 innings, and WHIP. But they are certainly going to be put to the test against this high-powered Aggie offense out in the mountain air. And then on top of that, New Mexico State 5-1 at home in conference play to start the year. And you look at, it's funny, it's just rinse and repeat with two-way stars for the Aggies. We saw the exit of Desiree Spearman going on to Texas Tech. They had Faith Aragon in the program already, and she got off to kind of a rocky start in her New Mexico State career. Took extreme leaps going into this year. She leads the league with 5 wins in conference play, 5-1 with a 1.93 ERA in the circle in league play, hitting .333 with 3 home runs and 8 RBIs at the plate. So really getting it done for, on both sides for the Aggies right now. A huge asset for the team. Another series to watch, Jacksonville State visits FIU, another place where it's going to be hard to win because the Panthers are 18-2 at home this season. And I kind of wrote down, an X factor for them. I talked about, some of the other stats with some of these Jacksonville State hitters. The one thing that jumped out to me, they are 4th in the nation in walks drawn this year. And that is one thing that FIU has done exceptionally well, is limiting walks. They're 20th in the 20th in the nation in strikeout to walk ratio, and they have 2 pitchers in the top 15 in walks allowed per 7 innings. So they are extremely efficient in the circle. So if they can do a good job at, just you can't have those free passes. Don't give Jacksonville State any opportunities to get an Emma Elrod on base early on for her to come, right around and score. Allow them to beat you with their bats, but don't beat yourself up with the walks.
Right. And that's I coach in the summertime too with my 16-year-olds, and that's the one thing. And even just preaching it all through high school and college is that coaches preach. I mean, I'd rather see you go out there and get shelled and give up a 10 spot than give up 10 runs by allowing free passes. There's just, I know it's easier said than done, and throwing strikes is not easy, but you got to go out there and throw strikes at this level if you want to win games, and that'll be an interesting matchup to see. Obviously Jax State seems to have great discipline at the plate, but yeah, if they're throwing strikes and they got to force their hand a little bit and make them swing the bat and force them to actually beat them in that way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll find out what else is in the secrets, or maybe not. She may not want to reveal much, but what's been going well for the Gamecocks so far. Again, we have Morgan Nowakowski joining us for a special interview, so enjoy our interview with Morgan. What's up, CUSA fans? We are here in our interview segment, and we are joined by Jacksonville State outfielder Morgan Nowakowski, a veteran leader for this Gamecock squad. Morgan, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, so you guys have won 20 of your last 25 games, including an 8-1 start to conference play. What's been clicking so well for you guys during this hot stretch?
Really, we talk about it as a team all the time. We talk about staying in our bubble. That's a big part of observing what's going on around us, with social media and not absorbing it. So really just staying who we are as a team and keeping the momentum rolling.
So from inside the locker room, do you feel like this is something that's just kind of sustainable, or do you feel like there's another level that this team has?
Always another level. We show up to practice every day to get better. We're not where we want to be yet. We've only played 3 weekends of conference. We still have several to go. Our ultimate goal is winning a championship. So we are definitely not where we want to be.
Only 3 weekends in, but you guys faced quite the gauntlet already, facing 3 of the top 4 teams in the preseason poll. And again, you guys have gone 8-1, including a series win at Liberty, which is something no one's been able to do in almost 2 decades. You snapped WKU's winning streak and then swept Louisiana Tech. What kind of statement do you think some of those wins are making to the league right now?
I think it's really easy to say that we've played the top teams in the conference, but truly, I think everybody that we're facing in Conference USA are tough teams. I think we have to stay true to ourselves, play Jax State Softball, and I think the wins come with that. If we show up to the field and play how we know we can play and stay at our level, good things happen. And good things are happening right now. We just have to stay and continue to grow from it.
Like you mentioned, I mean, every series is going to be a big one, no matter who you're playing. This one, you've got or this weekend, you have a big one at FIU, and winning there is something that not a lot of teams have been able to say this year. They're 18-2 at home. What's the mindset? I know you've kind of mentioned that you're just trying to stay true to your identity so far, but what's the team's mindset going into that environment, going on the road for a big series like that?
Yeah, so we're not really looking at records. We're looking at the team in front of us, really focusing on where our feet are. When we get on the field, it's just us against them. It's not about anything that's going on the outside. So if we show up and play how we know we can play, competition meets competition, and I expect us to go in there and win.
All right. One of the biggest X factors I kind of noticed looking at this matchup on paper is you guys are obviously a very disciplined team at the plate, and that's something that FIU's pitchers are, rank towards the top in the nation in terms of walks allowed. So, first of all, just kind of talk me through what goes into your team's discipline at the plate, and then when you're going again, when you're looking at the team on the other side, how do you kind of better prepare, knowing that you're going to see a lot of strikes and a lot of hittable pitches?
Yes, Coach Haley Sims, she is really great at telling us, let balls be balls. Hit the pitches that you want to hit. Control your at-bats. Control the controllables. So really focusing on what pitches can we hit hard and what pitches can we handle. If we're seeing a lot of strikes, then we know we can be aggressive. But if the pitchers aren't throwing us the strikes that we know we can hit hard, then we take them. And that's truly what discipline comes down to, knowing what you can handle and controlling what you can control.
All right. Well, when you're getting hittable pitches, you're certainly doing a lot with them, leading the team in batting average and doubles, near the top in just about every other offensive category. What's been working for you at the plate this year as a redshirt senior? I know every year has just kind of been building towards this year, but what's really been going into the success this year?
I think truly experience. It is my 5th year. Going up to the plate, I truly just I'm fighting for my team. I don't think about personal stats. I think about what can I do? What is the game demanding from me right now that I can do in my at bat? And how can I meet the demands that the game is asking me? So really just going up there, giving it my all and fighting for my team. Every pitch, every at bat.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about demands. You go back to this weekend, up against the wall, 2 outs, bottom of the 7th inning, and you rope a double to send the team into extras. Where does that moment rank in terms of your Jacksonville State career?
It's definitely an exciting one. Actually, during that game, I hadn't had the outcomes that I had wanted in my previous at bats, but you just have to keep telling yourself to keep swinging the bat hard. And you never know what opportunity that you can have. And I came up in a big spot and I kept true to myself and I was able to perform for my team. And, Ashley Phillips comes up the next inning and she hits a home run. So it's really just one girl after another fighting for each other. And we all have the same goal in mind.
Looking at your career, so you've been at one program at Jacksonville State your entire career, which, not to sound like a broken record, but these days that is not something you see a lot with one person staying in one program. What's made that consistency work just for you personally and with the program overall?
Well, I got recruited at a younger age. I went to travel ball and I I looked at my options, and when I came to Jacksonville, I came to a camp at Jacksonville when I was about 10 years old, and I remember leaving that camp, and in the car with my dad, I said, "That's where I wanna play softball. That's where I wanna go to college." I said I walked on campus, and it wasn't even about the level of play, it was the people that I met. I said, "Every single person that I met was kind, genuine." I said, "That's the kind of person that I wanna be. That's the kind of person that I can build myself up to be." And, um, so I truly worked, playing softball, but ultimately, I wanted to be the kind of women that Jacksonville recruited. And going through the program, um, Coach Julie and Coach McGinnis, I played for Coach McGinnis for 3 years, have been nothing short of amazing to me. Um, this program means everything to me, so I will always be a Gamecock through and through.
I'll tell you what, having been there the past 2 years for our football championship game, the nickname friendliest campus in the South definitely holds up. So I can see how you had that same takeaway. But you brought it up there, going from Coach McGinnis to Coach Boland. I know that there was obviously a lot of consistencies there with her being such an integral part of Coach McGinnis's staff. But what's allowed that transition to be so seamless?
Coach Julie was the one that truly recruited me. I mean, Coach McGinnis came to some of my games, but I talked to Coach Julie more during my recruitment process. So when I finally got to Jacksonville, I love Coach McGinnis. Coach McGinnis is a legend for Jacksonville State. And Coach Julie, I mean, she's been there for almost as long as Coach McGinnis has. So you really didn't see one without the other. And Coach Julie truly is a great leader. And we have to give so much credit to her for how much passion for the game that she pours into us, how much love and effort and time that she truly pours into all of us girls. So, I wasn't much of a change going from Coach McGinnis to Coach Julie because they were two peas in a pod for as long as I had known.
When you're in the middle of a stretch like this, playing some really good ball on one of the best teams in the league, does it ever hit you how far you've come in your personal journey?
Yeah, it's really exciting. It's my last year of softball, so I truly take it and just say, go all out. I have nothing to lose at this point. This is my last year that I'll get to play. So really just giving it my all every single at bat because you never know like when that can be taken away from you. So I'm just really soaking in this last year with my team and enjoying the moment.
So for a lot of people who don't know, and I think a lot of people in the CUSA world that you've only been a part of for a couple years, you were born with Epstein anomaly. You went through multiple surgeries as a child and went through open heart surgery prior to your collegiate career. Did you ever have? I'm sure you did, but I mean, did you have that reality that maybe you weren't going to play again?
Yeah, I was talking to Coach Julie about this last week, actually. I said, I don't know if I would have made it through all of my years of college had that surgery not happened. I got on campus my freshman year and had a stroke, a mini stroke, like a week and a half after I set foot on campus, and it truly changed my life. Yeah, that surgery projected me. I don't think I would be where I am today without it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was literally life-changing. But how has that experience changed the way that you approach the game of softball now?
Yeah, so like I said, you never know what can be taken away from you, and that really opened my eyes, in a scary way. I was 18 years old, but, it opens your eyes to know that anything can be taken away from you, so just enjoy what you have right now, and I love softball and being able to play with my teammates and being able to be coached, I truly love that. So being able to go out there and do it every day is such a blessing.
But do you ever find yourself in, big moments, whether it's in the game of softball or not, just thinking that you've been through harder than this, having gone through something that not a lot of people have gone through?
I think that's really funny because I was thinking that I get nervous, I think, more for some of my teammates in big situations than I do myself because you know how you can handle things. You know what's going on in your mind. And I really get more nervous watching my teammates go through stressful situations because I want them to succeed so bad that it stresses me out more than when I'm in it. And I do think our coaches have prepared us for situations like that, constantly putting us in uncomfortable situations to make plays or make the big hit. So our coaches have definitely helped us with that. But yes.
I'm sure that is not your fun fact when you're introducing yourself to new teammates, but is that something that a lot of the team knows about you? Your history with that, and does that kind of perspective show up in the dugout?
Yeah. I wouldn't say that my heart is perfect. I mean, there are times I'm definitely not a distance runner by any means. So I think my team kind of knows in certain situations just that my heart's getting wonky or whatever, but they none of them have failed to pick me up or be there for me. And we really have a family culture at Jacksonville State, and all of those girls are my sisters. So um yeah, they would take care of me just as much as I would take care of any of them.
If you could go back to your 17, 18-year-old self whenever prior to having surgery, what would you say, just having been through the last 4 or 5 years?
Um, wow. I mean, my 18-year-old self, I was curious about everything. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was so scared. If I could go back and talk to myself right now, I'd tell her that um all is going to be okay. Just trust in God's plan that um everything is going to work out the way that it needs to, and just stay faithful and continue to grow from this.
And just to kind of, as we wrap up here, what does it mean to you to not just be still playing the game of softball, but be thriving the way you are?
Um, it truly means everything to me. I mean, like I said, I love this game. So, stats don't really matter when it comes to being able to do something that you love and be passionate about something. I say this all the time, but I am going to miss, I think, the most, not only my teammates, but just the competition. I said I'll never find another competition like this again in my life. So really soaking it all in, I love it. It gives you the adrenaline rush. It gives you everything. So, um, I've spent so much time of my life dedicated to the game of softball that um, it's really exciting to have the last go at it.
Obviously, like you said, still a lot more softball to be played this spring as we get closer to the CUSA Softball Championship and potentially an NCAA tournament appearance. But what is your message to the Gamecock fans about this team and this program?
Yeah, I want the Gamecock fans to know that we appreciate them. One, I think our fans are amazing. They come out and they support us through and through. And to know that we're staying in our bubble, we're grinding, we're keeping our head down, and our goal is to win a championship. So that's what we expect.
Awesome. Well, Morgan, thank you so much again for taking the time this afternoon. It's been great getting to talk to you and getting to know a little bit more about you. Best of luck the rest of the year, and hopefully we'll see you in Delaware for the conference tournament.
Thank you.
Thank you to Morgan Nowakowski for taking time out of her busy schedule and season to speak with us here on the CUSA Insider. And thank you all for listening to another amazing episode of the podcast. As always, you can find us on YouTube if you'd like to see us and watch us talk about everything going on in Conference USA. Or for our OG audio listeners, you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And reach out to us on social media if you have any comments or suggestions or just any feedback in general. You can find us at CUSA Insider Pod on both X and Instagram. Thank you again for joining us. I'm Josh Yonis, signing off.